sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to send it back.
It's the Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Venessa, Harbir, Gabriel and George Gracias.
Hello and welcome to the NEMBC's Multicultural AFL Footy Show. I am Venessa, and on tonight's panel we have Harbir, Gabriel and George. Hello guys.
Hello Venessa.
Hi Venessa.
Hello. Last weekend separated the sides that are the real final contenders and others which are destined for mediocrity, and also those which are capitulating pretenders. Last Thursday night, St Kilda might as well stay at home as Richmond trashed them by 86 points, and on Friday, West Coast defeated Collingwood by 37 points. Sydney's winning run came to an end as they lost the derby and bragging rights to the GWS Giants by 2 points at the SCG. The Western Bulldogs rolled the Gold Coast by 62 points, while at Marvel, Port Adelaide beat an error-ridden Carlton by 28 points as some of their supporters booed them off the ground. From the Gabba, Brisbane made easy work of Essendon, winning by 57 points. Fremantle dished out a shock loss to the Adelaide Crows at home by 2 goals. And Melbourne is still undefeated, beating the Hawks by 50 points. While Geelong at home and struggling all day finally put away North Melbourne in the last quarter by 30 points. What are your thoughts, Harbir, on the last weekend's game?
Well, I would say there are a few teams which are not playing all the 4 quarters, and then some are like never say die until the last second or so. So there has been some difference between all the teams which we saw this time. And GWS Giants, that's what I meant, that playing right to the end. Toby Green had like only 7 behinds, but he still sort of kept on going on the game. And then all the odds were sort of against them. The way they came up with that win, that was just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, they're playing well, but also on the other side of the coin, Carlton against Port Adelaide, I was really disappointed with Carlton. I think we were all expecting much more from them, considering that Port Adelaide had so many players out with injury, and yet at the MCG, they just dominated Carlton from beginning to end, and Carlton, so many unforced errors and silly mistakes really cost them.
That's the thing their supporters would be disappointed about most, their ball use. Backwards, sideways, they're just not decisive enough. They miss easy shots on goal. Mackay is a great player on his day, but he doesn't produce consistent performances. Carlton supporters would be tearing their hair out when they see Petrevski-Seton turn the ball over. And it's just week after week they keep making the same basic errors. Yeah,
well, our director would tear his hair out too.
yeah. So that's what I meant. Like the teams like Carlton, St Kilda, like they're playing 1 or 2 quarters, but then after that they're just dying away at the moment. So they need to sort of lift their game up. And with St Kilda, that was a shock loss. I mean, loss is a different thing, but the way it happened, that was like a totally uncalled for. And where they are like, we're expecting a very close, a fierce contest between these 2 teams fighting for each point. St Kilda just sort of went off the radar over there.
Yeah, I can understand that St Kilda have a lot of their sort of key cog or the main spine of the team from last season where they did so well. I get it, but still, there are players that are still quite good and quite capable of turning things around.
Did they get ahead of themselves, Gabriel?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them got ahead of themselves, and there are some players, some of those replacement players, who just aren't at that level. And Richmond totally destroyed them. To have someone like Pickett playing in ruck, Revolt playing in ruck, because they were just toying with St Kilda. That's a huge wake-up call.
Yeah, it's an insult to St Kilda that they're being dominated by players that aren't natural ruckmen. Now, Harbir, 5th week in a row, you've come into the studio happy as Larry.
Yeah, no, I am.
Unfortunately. Much to our chagrin.
All the umpires tried to spoil that in the 3rd quarter side, but we've decided that we're not going to talk about the umpires this season. We just got to cop it on the chin. But geez, that hurt when it's your team with those decisions. But yeah, all in all, I think Bulldogs are flying high, but I believe their real test sort of starts now with the games that coming up, and it was a very good win. And they have let that slip in the past with the other team coming back or so, like with the points or so, but they got their game in control, which was fantastic. And what a 150th for Bontempelli, like absolute superstar.
But the midfield of the Bulldogs,
yes,
what a machine. An amazing, the way that the Bulldogs do the run and carry and the hand passing and just the ball skills and just getting the ball from defence, working their way up to the forward line, it's
Tom Liberatore is in career best form.
Yeah.
And another team with a 5-0 record, the Melbourne Demons. Terrific performance against the Hawks. In the last quarter, they struggled 3 and a bit quarters. Hawthorn were able to dictate terms through the middle, but Melbourne were able to break free in the last quarter. Hawthorn went a little bit too attacking. If they stayed in that defensive mindset, they may have contained and perhaps got over the line with a narrow win, but Melbourne persisted. 5-0. It's the first time since the Norm Smith era they've started the season with a 5-0 record, so Melbourne supporters finally have something to be happy about.
Yeah, the only major problem with Melbourne is that, I mean, they're playing really, really good footy. They're playing brilliant footy, but can you imagine if they could kick straight? That would be even more dangerous.
They will, and Petracca, he is the focal point, of course, but if he's not kicking goals, at least you can get someone like a Max Scorn go down and take some grabs. They'll get, hopefully, Sam Wiedemann back pretty soon. So they do have some attacking options. Players, yeah. They have some depth, finally, for a number of years. So Melbourne supporters have a lot to look forward to for the rest of the season.
Max Scorn is having a fantastic season this year. And on the other side, we expected a lot more from Collingwood as well, and the way they started off, like they were there in the game, and we were eyeing an upset because they are suffering from some injuries as well, and we've seen that when West Coast have been put in some sort of pressure, sometimes they do mistakes, and where the other can get advantage from that. But in this game, that wasn't the case. Like, they just came back, and then after that, Collingwood didn't have any answers. Understand all the injuries as well, and there's a lot of on-field and off-field drama where that's happening around Collingwood. I think it's getting too much, and with the saga of telephone, I think getting repeated what happened last year with Jaden Stephenson, the club needs to get in a way where it's like the right way, and then they on and off field dramas that need to be sorted for them.
Yeah.
Well, having those injuries to DeGoey and Howe early in the game against the Eagles really hurt them, of course. So it affected them in terms of their rotations and having to rejig the team. So
and they threw Darcy Moore up front. I mean, there's not much more he can do. He's a great player, but I agree with you. Collingwood are a bit of a mess at the moment, and I mean, I'm not really a big deal with the whole telephone thing. There's far worse problems going on at the Collingwood Footy Club at the moment, but boy, they were really disappointing against West Coast.
Yeah, and I believe Geelong, I don't know what to make out of them at this stage. They've got some injury concerns as well, same as like other teams, but their movement is not that great when we compare it to the teams which are up there, like Port Adelaide, Richmond. Very slow. And then I think I don't think these new rules, maybe it's not fit for them or so. Maybe they're not doing it well. And whereas like Gary Ablett, he's thinking that he can make a comeback. So I don't know what's going on with Geelong, and they'll really be put to test, I think, in the coming games.
I think once they can get Jeremy Cameron back, that will straighten them up, and it will encourage faster ball use, because up until now they've tried to be very measured, very calm and methodical. They really do need to move the ball. They need to attack a lot quicker and a lot more penetration through the middle. They've been skirting the wings a lot, which isn't the Geelong style of football we've seen in previous years.
Yeah. And on the other side of the coin, Brisbane versus Essendon, the whole sort of saga with Danaher and his former club and all the drama that was going on, and it was a bit of a fizzer in the end.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe it came out like Joe Danaher versus Essendon. He was at the front, at the back, on the wing and everywhere. And he made a mark on that game as if he made it personal that game. Plus, we have to give it to Essendon that there was not the best of the conditions to play in. But, my God, Lockie Neal, he's come back in a big way. And they made a big statement against Essendon in that game.
Yeah, Brisbane would have been relieved to finally get to play at home after all of the travails with COVID and having games moved around. So finally they get to play at home, a good win. And speaking of good wins, Fremantle away from home against Adelaide. That, to be fair, they've had a terrific start to the year. So it's a good scalp for Freo.
Yeah, and it was a great game too.
Yes.
It was really close up until the last couple of minutes in the final quarter. And Adelaide did play well, and Tex Walker, he was just sensational. But Fremantle, really good. Yeah, Fremantle had a really good win. It was a good game.
And some experts are saying like, don't get rid of your veterans because the way Mundy is playing at the moment, and he's like nearly 36 or so, and Fremantle is changing everything, and they got a good bunch together. They will go further if they will go very far, if not this year or next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, guys. The panel will be back on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Back again. Before we go on to previewing round 6, which promises to be very interesting indeed, boys, what do you make of the AFL assessing if the impact of the new rules are contributing to players' long-term injuries? Right now, out of 815 registered AFL players, there are 128 on injury list. And maybe it is also a good time to ask the question whether the speed of the game is becoming too fast to umpires to be consistent with their decisions. What are your thoughts, George?
Well, the AFL at the moment, Venessa, is commissioning a report into the rules changes, I beg your pardon. Of course, they came into the season having reduced rotations from 90 to 75 so they can open up the play, make the game faster. I think the rule change has worked too well because that injury list is too high for only 5 games into the season. I mean, if we have 128 injuries so far, where will we be when we get to round 22?
Yeah, I think there's another school of thought. What they're saying is there hasn't been many stress-related injuries. There's been like fractures and like as in other injuries, but there with the new rules aside, where the game has become fast and players have to be on field for longer, they would have expected more of stress fractures, like stress-related injuries, but that hasn't happened. So I think it will be really interesting what comes out of that report, which they've got going now.
Yeah, I mean, either way, an injury is an injury. You know, it doesn't matter how it is, but it is a scary statistic that with the changes that they've made, it's brought about so many injuries. And that's what I don't like or don't understand is that every year there seems to be all these new rule changes and all this necessity to make it quicker and all that. And a lot of people forget that these players are human beings. You know, they're just human beings. And sometimes it does take a toll on them. Their body breaks down. And they're playing a game that is incredibly tough anyway. There's a lot of injuries, there's a lot of push and shoving and grabbing and all that sort of stuff.
To their credit, Harbir, they've at least introduced a 12-day break for players that are concussed. They're really strict with that. They know that they have to protect player welfare. Yeah. But that's a surprising aspect of the reduction in rotations. I think it actually harms the welfare of players in the long run because they're having to stay out on the field a lot longer, which, exposes them to fatigue and those hamstring-related injuries.
Yeah, and umpires are finding it a bit hard as well, I believe. The game is getting a bit fast. That's why we're seeing a lot of decisions which are going either way. Too many contentious decisions with the deliberate or maybe some other with the it's not proper handball aside. There's things are playing up. So hopefully whatever comes out of that makes our game better.
Thanks for that, boys. Starting from tomorrow night, we have a number of season-making or breaking games, starting off with the GWS Giants from Canberra's Manuka Oval, taking on the unbeatable Bulldogs, and the Gold Coast from Metricon challenge Sydney, while Geelong at home from the GMHBA face the West Coast. What are your thoughts, Gabriel?
Well, I'm really looking forward to Geelong versus West Coast. Also, more so for the will he or won't he actually appear, Jeremy Cameron, will he actually finally play? But I think this is going to be a really interesting test because Geelong, for me, have been a bit unconvincing. They've got this fantastic side and when they're really, really good, they play amazing footy, but when they're off, they're off. And for these past few weeks, I don't really think that they're the Geelong of old. And even Patrick Dangerfield has sort of lost a bit of his spark. Yeah. There's just something a little bit off with Geelong at the moment. And the West Coast Eagles, they've had their moments. I mean, against Collingwood at the beginning, there was a little bit of a scare. But then they just got into the rhythm and they just played as good as they've always had. And Nick Naitanui in fantastic form. McGovern, well, he's an absolute gun. I mean, there's so many good players out there for the West Coast Eagles. I think West Coast are going to win that one.
I believe Geelong will win, Gabriel. I know their form hasn't been convincing. They have been playing in patches, but they do play their home ground, which I like to refer to as Cardinia Park.
Yeah.
They do play that game, that ground quite well. But as we touched on earlier, they do need to move the ball a lot quicker. Now that Jeremy Cameron's back, and with Hawkins side by side, they will have a potent forward line.
Yeah. Now I think West Coast need to make a statement that they're better players outside Perth as well. So it'll be a good game, and Geelong is probably the perfect target because they're not playing that good, so they should win this one. And however, Giants versus Bulldogs, I think it's going to be a cracker of a game. The only thing is I hope Bulldogs are ready for the physicality side of things, because with Toby Green being the captain, I think he's going to come back to all the brutal ways, and he wants to win, and his whole team is supporting him in that. So get ready for some scuffles here and there, I would say. And it's going to be a cold. It's probably warmed the players up as well, so it's going to be good. Yeah. But it's going to be a very good game. But I believe Bulldogs might again come on top the way they're performing.
Well, they've had a good rivalry over the years, GWS and the Bulldogs. But yeah, I actually do believe that this was going to be a really, really close one. I can't really tell, but if the Bulldogs win, I think then they're the real deal. I really do believe that.
I don't think the Bulldogs will mind the rough stuff, Harbir. They're used to it from GWS. You only saw a couple of years ago how they tried to rough up Bontempelli. Yeah. So they'll be preparing for that. They'll prepare for that onslaught. But the Bulldogs just have too much class and a lot of confidence. So expect 6-0.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we wouldn't mind that.
What, the score, 6-0?
No, the win-loss record.
As long as Bulldogs won, 6-0 is fine.
You need to bet something.
Yeah, and Sydney versus Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast is, again, as I touched on before, not playing the 4 quarters. I mean, they've got the injuries and all other things as well, but they need to come up with better performance. And Sydney, I think, after that loss to GWS, they will be coming on hard on GWS, but Gold Coast. But there's a couple of things. Buddy Franklin is out for some time now, and Tom Hickey I think he's out too. So there is some advantages there for Gold Coast Suns, but I don't think there will be enough for them to win though.
No, I'm unconvinced with the Gold Coast Suns. They've been very disappointing so far. So I'm just going to go for Sydney. I think Sydney will bounce back after the disappointment of losing against their rivals GWS.
Expect a more disciplined defensive effort from the Sydney Swans.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And we'll return with more reviews after the break. You are with the Multicultural AFL Footy Show. Welcome back. Carlton, which made too many errors last week, will play the Brisbane Lions and Marvel in the late afternoon game, followed by a genuine blockbuster from the MCG between Melbourne and Richmond, with Fremantle and North Melbourne clash in Perth. Harbir, what do you make of those games?
Oh, I believe Melbourne versus Richmond, as you said, it's spot on. It's going to be the game of the week probably, and we will really see who we really got really good as a team, because it's going to be a very good test for Melbourne. I think they really need to show. I don't care like whether they win or lose, but as long as they put up a good performance, which they've done so far against the other teams, and now they are being tested against a very good side. This will be like a barometer for them, like how they perform. So I hope they come out good. I've got this slight feeling though, but Richmond, it's going to be a tad stronger than Melbourne in this game.
We'll see. It's going to be a really, really good one. This one I'm really looking forward to, but we're going to see the sort of clashes. You've got, Gawn and Nankervis, and you've got Martin and Petrarca, and all these sort of little battles that are going to happen. as you said, this is going to be the real test to see where Melbourne is at, because Richmond is still the barometer. They're still the yard mark. So we're going to see what's going to happen there. I think they will care if they win or lose this game, but I think just for the experience, just because of the players that they have on the table and because it's Richmond and you can't really go against them, I'm just going to pick Richmond for this one. I wouldn't be surprised if Melbourne pull off a win, but we'll see. Well,
Richmond were at their brutal best against St Kilda last week. Those 2 losses they had to the Sydney Swans and Port Adelaide are long gone. We've all forgotten about those losses because we saw the real Richmond last week. Melbourne, as you touched on, this is their true test. If they have aspirations to be a finals contender, they need to beat Richmond. Yeah, absolutely. And just, quickly, I think Fremantle should make light work of North Melbourne. I'm not expecting much there. Yep, same. Yeah, Fremantle easy for me. And with Carlton, I think they need to put up some show. Although I believe Brisbane, I think they're going to come on the top. Yeah, I totally agree.
The last 3 games of the round on Sunday will provide lots of entertainment for all. Hawthorn play Adelaide at Launceston, Tasmania, and in the late one, Port Adelaide at home hosts St Kilda. Now, for the traditional Anzac take, a big one from the G, Collingwood take on Essendon. And it might add, considering the ups and downs so far, very well evenly matched. What are your thoughts, George?
Well, with the Hawthorn-Adelaide clash, I'm a little bit frustrated with Hawthorn. It's great that they're having these honourable losses, but at some point they need to be converted into wins. Yeah. So they were very, very good against Melbourne for 3 and a bit quarters. They were very good against Geelong, but losing again by a very narrow margin. They were terrific against Richmond the week before that. So they really now need to start converting into performances into victories. I do expect them to beat Adelaide in Tasmania. It's been a happy hunting ground for the Hawks over the last 5 years. So you supporters in Tasmania, please actually get out and support that match. We need you in attendance. Port Adelaide taking on your side. Gabriel, what are your thoughts after such a disappointing start to the season?
Oh, you don't want to know what I think.
Tell us what you really think.
Tell us what you can see on camera.
So, we're going to go to commercial. Okay, we're going to no. But look, St Kilda, they've been really disappointing. Port Adelaide are going to steamroll St Kilda. I'm not expecting much from them. But just to sort of reiterate what you said about Hawthorn and Adelaide, I think you're right. But also, this is a really good chance for Adelaide to really pinch a victory against Hawthorn in Tasmania. But, I mean, yes, it has been good for Hawthorn that they've had some good runs in Tasmania, but this is a really, really good opportunity because Hawthorn are still at that embryonic stage with some of their players, so there's still a lot to go for them. But I think Adelaide could actually cause an upset there. But with Port Adelaide and St Kilda, I think Port Adelaide.
Let's talk about your mob.
Bulldogs. Yeah, let's talk about your mob, Bulldogs. No, but with Collingwood and Essendon, that's going to be a good one too. Collingwood have been an absolute shambles, and if Essendon beat Collingwood by more than 50 points, we were talking about David Teague earlier, but the pressure would surely be on Nathan Buckley if they lose by more than 50 points.
Are you suggesting a sacking, Gabriel?
A sacking, or maybe maybe he might even say, look, I can't take this team any further. I mean, who knows what can happen? I hear Melbourne Victory are looking for a coach, so who knows what can happen there. But
and Grant Brebner's looking for a coaching
exactly. They could swap, you know. I mean, it's just across the road, Amy Park and Gotch's Paddock. But Collingwood, they really need to come out here.
Yeah, no, I believe, but Essendon will come up on the top. I think the way they are performing at the moment, I don't think that was a good test for them against Brisbane with all those weather conditions and everything. But I think they will come on top in this game. Port Adelaide, they're going strong. They've got depth and everything. So it's Port Adelaide for me. And I believe you will have that joy of Hawthorn winning there as well. I believe the way their midfield are performing, although they're losing, but they are finding their mojo, Jago Mira, Mitchell and everyone. I think they just need to figure a couple of things. I think they will come on top. It might be a very close contest, but I think Hawthorn will come on top.
I hope you're right, Harbir.
Yes, fingers crossed. Thank you, guys. And that brings me to my footy tips for this week. Going for, of course, Western Bulldogs, Sydney, West Coast, Brisbane, Richmond, Fremantle, Adelaide, Port Adelaide and Essendon. That's all we have time for this week. You can watch us in Adelaide on Channel 44 Friday evenings this week at a special time at 8 p.m. on Aurora Foxtel TV at midday Saturday and on the NEMBC YouTube AFL. I am Venessa Gatica.
I'm Harbir Singh.
I'm Gabriel D'Angelo.
And I'm George Grossios.
Thank you and see you next week.